Great. Okay, so I'm going to show all of you some of the new features that we released over the holidays. And so first, I'm just going to go through and list them, and then I'll actually log into an account and I'll show it to you. So the first feature that we released is called an assignment tool. And some of you may have already seen it, but it's going to show up on the instruction tab. And so you can now create custom assignments for students, one-to-many students. So you can assign it to one student, or you can assign it to 20 students. And what it is you can assign Edge lessons, you can assign Khan lessons, or you can assign any URL. Okay, so the idea here is if you need to do some scaffolding with a few students who maybe are behind in a certain area, you can now assign them a homework assignment, and it shows up as an extra icon. So this is pretty significant, but I'll show this to you, so don't worry. And we also have tip sheets on all of this as well. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is the new usage data. So we added some additional columns on the Edge page, which allows you to see how many lessons a student needs to complete to get to the beginning of their grade level in terms of level. Okay, so that's a really useful report. And we also added a class map. So it's another way to look at your class in Edge and visually see where they're at without having to look at all the numbers and interpret it. And so that's a really great one as well. And then we also have a revised state standards view on Atom. So it's now easier to look at your class via state standards and sort of sort and adjust the class. But I'll show this to you. It's a little easier to understand it once you see it, okay? And then finally, we have an Edge Fidelity Report. So this actually released a little bit before the holidays, but what it's going to do is for you at a site level, you can run a report and basically see how much usage you have, whether you're on target, whether you're hitting an hour a week or not. So it's a really good report. And the other piece about this is later on we are going to be adding a way to do a subscription. So you could actually have this report emailed to anybody. And so that's going to release in a couple weeks. And actually, let me just jump over here and show you. So in a couple weeks, we're calling it push reporting. And then you'll get a separate tip sheet on that as well. But in theory, what you could do is you can actually break it down even at the classroom level. And so you can monitor Edge usage and have that sent to yourself or to the principal or whoever you want, and you can see everyone's usage. Okay? So let me go ahead and show it to you. Let's start off. I'm logged into an account, and I come up to Instruct, and I go to Assignment. And so now what I could do is I could say I want to add an assignment for my class, and I could say, let's say I know some students need to work on place value. So maybe we're going to be working on a grade level place value, but I know some students are very, very low in it. So place value basics. I can give it a due date. So let's say I'm going to say it is due, next Wednesday. And some instructions, please do by Wednesday. And now I could select the curriculum. So I could say I want to actually assign an Edge lesson. Maybe I already know I like the place value lesson with Edge, the basic one, which is tens and ones. Maybe I like that. I could preview it by clicking on the preview button. And I simply drag this over here, and I let go. Okay. Now I can also assign, I can mix and match. I could also say, well, I'm also going to have them watch the Khan lesson too. And, maybe whichever one they like best, they'll end up watching. So I could actually choose place value. I could go through here and sort of watch which video I think is the best one out of Khan Academy, and I could drag this over as well. Okay. If you found some kind of really good video lesson on your own, you can select custom URL. And then from there, you can actually put the custom URL in there, and you can have the students go there. What we would only be tracking at that point is whether they click and go over to the site. We don't actually know whether they do it. But with Khan and with Edge, we actually track how much time on task. So whether they actually go through and do the whole lesson or not. Okay, so once I'm ready, the next thing I do is I go down and I select my class. These are the teacher's classes, so whatever they are. I'm in just a demo account, so I'm just going to grab a class here randomly and start selecting some students. So I know these students are the ones that I want to target. Or if I click the double arrows, everyone in my entire class shows up over here on the left. If I want to take someone off, I can just go like that. Just use the arrows. And now I go save. Now here's that lesson. So again, it shows up under the assignments. And if I click on progress, I can see these 3 students. And so far, there's 0 progress, 0 out of 2. Okay. So you can imagine, I think this is one of the #1 requests people have been asking about Edge. Edge acts as an automated tutor, but can you also use it for classroom support? Can you use it for maybe a lesson before you're about to teach a class lesson for scaffolding, right? To make sure everyone knows some basics. Or to even target students individually are struggling in a certain area. So this is an awesome add-on. Let me show you how it looks for the student. So for the student, when they log in, as soon as assignment shows up, they now will see a My Assignments icon. And so they would have to be directed, okay, go ahead and click on the My Assignments. And when they click on that, see, actually that's a note here. Let me just click over here. Okay, when they click on it, this is an example of how a Khan Academy lesson would look. So they'd go through and start doing it. All right, does anyone have any questions on that?
If they assign an Edge lesson, does it count towards their Edge hours? Good question.
Okay, good question. So on the data portal, yes, it does count towards their Edge hour time. So on the data portal is when you're running the reports through the data portal where you run the fidelity reports, it does count on that. On the Edge tab, on the Edge 2.0 tab, when you click on the usage right here, this is only their current course, okay? But we are going to be adding in the next week or so, or 2 weeks probably, a button or some kind of filter where it'll say not just your course, but all Edge use, right? So right now, this is all relative to the class, to what they're enrolled in. So this is the Math Edge course, how many lessons they've done, how many they have left. But there'll be some kind of toggle button where you could toggle over to all Edge usage, which would be assignments and Edge. And that report will be a little simpler because it'll be just raw data. And I think it'll break out saying assignment time, Math Edge course time, ELA Edge course time, and then it'd give you numbers. Does that make sense? So the answer to the question is yes, you will. But unfortunately, you'll have to have a little bit of extra toggle because sometimes people want to see how much they're doing just on the course. And then they're now going to have to choose whether they want to see all or just the course. Any other questions?
Yep, we have another question.
Okay.
If you assign a Math Edge lesson and the student's already completed that lesson on their own personal, Math Edge program, what happens then?
Yeah, so if you assign a Math Edge lesson and it's already in the course, right now they're going to do it twice because they are independent. So in that sense, you do sort of have to keep track. In theory, you don't really want to assign Edge lessons to everyone in your entire class if they don't need it. It really should be more used as, okay, I know these 5 students are really far behind in place value, and so I'm going to go ahead and target them.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're good.
Okay, so moving on, and this is a good segue directly onto the Edge tab. So I went to Instruction, Edge 2.0. We now have a really neat way of looking at the data. If you click on usage, this was here before, the existing tab, but we added these 3 little columns right here. Now you have to be in a specific course. So right now I'm in Math Edge, but if you're in all ELA, it won't work. You have to be in a specific course. So if we look at this, it says for this student, Toshi has 16 lessons to get to grade level. So Toshi's in 3rd grade. So that means really Toshi has 16 K1 and 2 instructional level lessons And on average, Toshi is taking 30 minutes to complete a lesson to gold. And that means it's about 8 hours of work before that student can get to grade level, to the beginning of grade level. Now, this student here, Kayla, has 23 lessons. She takes about 37 minutes per lesson to get to gold. And so that's 14.2 hours. So this is a great way to use to target who do you need to really focus on, right? I mean, you sort of know anyway, just because you go to Adam, you see the lower total scores. The students with lower scores really are further behind. But it's another way to look at it, say, okay, I really need to focus on these students. We need to get them to have more time on task, right? But anyway, you can even see here too, those students actually have less time on task for whatever reason. And this will update over time. So as the students do more lessons, the time will adjust to average minutes per lesson. But it's another way to monitor and say, well, how come this student's taking 75 minutes per lesson versus some other students maybe are taking less? So it is a way to also say, well, maybe the student isn't trying as hard, or maybe when they're going home, they're doing a lesson and they do other things just to rack up their time, right? So you could even talk to them and say, hey, you know, so-and-so Oscar, you can't spend 75 minutes a lesson on average. You need to spend less time. But of course, you know, that's with repeating too. So maybe we know that Oscar tends to have to repeat the lesson. So that might be a legitimate reason to have a higher number of minutes per lesson. Okay. Does that make sense, these 3 columns?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So another view is called Class Map, and this is brand new. We click on it. This is a great way to look at your class graphically. So now I see my class, and these are all their little certificates: gold, bronze, and silver. So I could see, you know, at a glance, well, these students aren't, you know, they need to get some more time on task. They're behind. This student here, I might say to him, hey, you know, Pablo, why don't you go ahead and do some review? Because I want you to go back and get your silver and bronzes up to gold. You know, so it's just a way to visually look at it. Now, also, you can see the numbers. And so you could sort of judge, too, who's a little further behind. Because remember, the first 2 letters in the lesson is the grade level and the lesson number. So I see that this is a 3rd grade class, but this student here had G1, G1, G2, 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 and they're at grade level. Where this student over here has 1, 2, 3 kindergarten level lessons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 first grade lessons. So again, even at a glance, by seeing that code, you can sort of judge who's a little farther behind and who's not. And so it's sometimes a good way for you just to see students' progress. So obviously, I would want those students who have more lower level lessons, below grade level, to get more time on task, because we want to get them up to grade level fast. Okay. Any questions about this class map? Okay. Great. Then, let me see. Let me go into the Fidelity report here. So I am going to log into, let's see, another account. So all of you are math coaches, so you all have access to, my assumption is site level reporting. So if you don't have access, then you probably need to request it. And that just means you need to send an email to our help desk and say, hey, I'm the math coach at such and such school. I need to have be made a principal. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and log into an account. All right, so when you log into your account, you would then go to Data Portal once you have principal level access. And then one way to know is your reports and your exports are 2 separate tabs. For the teachers, they only have 1 column. They only have 1 menu item. And so you don't want to be in a teacher level because you don't have access to this. So here I go to reports, and I can go ahead and say, let's choose the LGL Edge Site Fidelity Report. Okay. So now I could choose weekly or open parameter. Weekly is the easiest because it's sort of a good way to run this at the beginning of the week. Like on Monday, you run it, and you click continue. And what happens is we actually pre-process this on Saturday night. Every Saturday night we run usage totals, and it's actually pre-calculated to make it faster. So does anyone want to volunteer their school to choose? Or you can volunteer a colleague's school. That's even better.
PS8.
PS8, okay. And, okay, here it is. Check the box. You'll only have one probably, and then make sure you click update. If you don't click update, you're gonna get an error, okay? So I say set update site, and now I'm gonna say, okay, I wanna do all edge, ELA, or Math Edge. We'll choose Math Edge, and our target is 1 hour a week. And by default, it's the last week. So it's 114 to 120, which was last week, okay? And I'll choose grades K to 8, hit begin. Okay, so now, hopefully you can see that. So now we see, it has kindergartners. I guess some kindergartners were enrolled, but first graders, 93 first graders, 70 second graders, 99 third graders, 86 fourth graders, and 83 fifth graders. The average hours per student was 0.65 hours, 0.68, 1.17, 1.13, and 0.70. So the averages look good on some of these, but that doesn't necessarily mean everyone was spending an hour, right? So in terms of target, 53% of the third graders were an hour or more, 60% were an hour or more at fourth grade. Now, of course, you guys know the whole issue of, time on task versus time in the computer lab. There's a slight discrepancy, right? Because we're not tracking login time and transition time. It's only time on lessons. But again, this gives you a good way of judging, maybe I need to take a look at the first grade class, or you really want to make sure that fifth grade class maybe gets a little bit higher usage, just because for fifth graders, it's more important. When they're behind, they need more help. You also see the gross number of lessons completed. And I think that's, then also an estimated average gains. So that gives you an estimated how much progress they're making. So any questions on this? Now, have some of you may have already seen this, or maybe you figured it out. We do have a tip sheet on it, which I'm going to send to the supervisors, which they'll forward to you. So we'll have some video links and some tip sheets that I'll send to all your supervisors, and they can forward it to you hopefully tomorrow or today. So the one other thing that's coming is that under reporting, it's going to be a subscription, all right? And I have it under beta right now, so I'm just going to show you how it looks. But what's going to happen is you're going to be able to create a new subscription. And when you select it, you're going to be able to select the weekly report, which I just showed you, a monthly report, or you're going to be able to choose a teacher roster report. Now, the teacher roster report is a little more complicated. You actually have to go through, and you know how every teacher has 6 or 7 rosters, right? So you actually have to go through and pick the right ones one time, and then that'll send a report so you could actually say, okay, which teachers, what's their edge usage by class? So that is something, like I said, it'll be ready in 1 to 2 weeks. You have to do this one time, because unfortunately, the first time you do it, your school is going to have hundreds of rosters, right? Because if you have, the way the system works, every single teacher shows up at your school. So if you have 50 teachers, you'll see 50 teachers, and then there's 50, each teacher has 6 or 7 rosters. So you need to go through, find the math teachers, click, okay, homeroom math, grade 5, or maybe it's grade 6. They have 3 math classes, 1, 2, 3, and click those. And once you save, then that report will now start being emailed automatically. Okay, so again, we'll have a really detailed tip sheet on that. It's a little more complicated, but I just want to let you know that's coming, and that way it'll be easier to monitor.
All right, the one other piece I want to show everyone is the ADAM Standards report. So I go to the ADAM page, and I go to State Standards. So this is different. This is not the student State Standards report. This is the classroom State Standards report. So I come down to State Standards, and this is a 3rd grade class. And now I'm going to go ahead and select a standard. So this would be a standard potentially that we're working on. So maybe it's something in my pacing guide, or it's something that I know that we're supposed to be targeting. So I select this one, 3086, and now we see the standard right here, shows up. And a lot of standards cover multiple skills. So in this particular case, it requires number skills, knowledge, multiplication, and division. And so if we look at our class, we see that the red are where students are low, so low in multiplication that it's considered foundational. So these students here all need foundational support. These students here are ready to learn the standard. You see that their multiplication is a little bit higher, and then the numbers skills here is good as well. And these students have mastered the standard. Okay. Within this group, these are the ones I'm really going to want to focus on. So some of the students have very low multiplication skills and also medium low. So I'm going to maybe try to do some kind of lesson for all of these students or come up with a plan to get them ready so that when we teach the main standard next week or whenever, we're ready to go. Now these students here, maybe I want to find an alternative activity for them because they already have mastered the standard, so they're going to understand this. And so I don't want to waste their time or bore them. So maybe I try to find some alternative activity that will challenge them. Now within this group, I can actually still sort. So if I want to sort by multiplication skills, so now I could even do some further grouping. So these students here are lowest level of multiplication. These students are sort of mid-level. Right here, they're all, so I actually can break this up into two groups, one group and another group. So when I plan my scaffolded activities, I'm going to target these students together and then these students separately.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. So thank you for your time and good luck. And if you have, like I said, any questions, make sure you could always send emails to our help desk or call our help desk. And I don't know if you guys all know too, everyone should know this, but when you go up to the very top on help on any page, there's request support. So teachers should know about that as well as yourself. It's a really fast way of getting support because it creates an issue automatically. You put in your information and it automatically puts in your login and your school code. So it's a great way to get support and get things fixed fast. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.